The movie Malcolm and Marie, starring Zendaya and John David Washington, has gained a lot of acclaim recently. And while this isn't your typical love story, it claims to be a movie about love. In this episode, we break down the movie and then address three big questions as it pertains to tackling conflict in marriage. So you don't want to miss this. Let's go. Hey friends, welcome to the Marriage Inside Out podcast, where we teach couples how to become mission focused, learning to work together as a team to build a solid foundation for their household. I'm Khalil, and this is my wife, the lady of the house. Yes, you all may know her as AJ, but I call her Adrian.
Yes.
Let us make some noise for the
So
lady of the
grateful.
house.
So grateful to be back at it. Let's go.
Back at it, yes. So, all right. So a movie just recently came out called Malcolm and Marie, and it has received much acclaim.
Yeah.
It's starring John David Washington and Zendaya, as she
The
is known, the
Zendaya.
Zendaya, directed by Sam Levinson, I believe his name is. And so, yeah, I mean, we heard about this movie and we watched it and we said, man, we got to do a podcast episode about this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, excellent movie.
And there's so much to unpack, right? There's layers. And
Yes.
I love that kind of the tagline along with it was that, like, this is not a love story. This is a story about love.
Yes.
Right? So when you're going into it, that's definitely something to consider for all those rom-com people out there, right? That love
Right.
the
No,
perfect storyline.
This ain't that. This
Not
ain't that.
that.
It is not that. It is not that. And I think we knew that coming in,
Right.
watching the movie.
Yeah.
And so, although this movie doesn't depict a married couple,
Right.
we felt that it does portray how some marriages are. Let's
Right.
just be honest. And
Yeah.
Let's be real. And, one of the things that we love to do is, we love to break down movies and music
Yes.
and books that pertain to marriage and relationships, because we feel like there are so many cool things that you can glean from different works of art.
Right.
And so that's what we're going to do.
Yes,
All right.
let's go.
So just to give a little bit of background and FYI, spoiler alert.
Yes.
So if you have not watched this movie and you plan to watch it, turn the channel right now and go ahead and go watch it and come back. Or if you don't care to watch it, then stick around, because we're going to get into some good discussion.
Yep.
But just to give a little background on what this story is about. So it portrays a couple, Malcolm and Marie.
Right.
Malcolm played by John David Washington, son of Denzel, shout out. And Marie played by Zendaya. They come home from a movie showing. So Malcolm is a director and, just had a movie showing. It went well.
Yeah.
And just to make a long story short, it just chronicles a whole evening of them getting into arguments.
Yeah.
Just to say the least. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a movie about an argument,
Yeah.
a long kind of in and out arguments, kind of up and downs. It's like, I feel like they have like 4 or 5 rounds of arguments, almost like a Mortal Kombat fight or something. And yeah, but they're just kind of, they do get pretty vicious and intense at times in their arguments. And so, again, as you mentioned, it kind of, it shows not necessarily the sweet and pretty and beautiful side that we might like to see of a relationship at times, but again, it shows some very raw and real moments.
Right. Yeah. And I think for a lot of relationships, moments like that are reality, right? And that's why we felt that it was necessary to bring up this conversation even considering that our focus is helping couples in marriage, just we know that there are a lot of things that happen behind closed doors in different relationships that maybe people don't even fully understand what healthy communication looks like, right? How to navigate through different types of conflicts. So it was just to go through kind of my thoughts
No,
as
talk
well,
about
if that's okay.
Yeah, what'd you think of it? Like, let's get into it.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought first of all the like cinematography, the look, the feel,
soundtrack,
everything was on point.
Yeah.
Like they really took you on a journey, right? A journey, almost like a peek behind the scenes into the nature of what this couple was enduring. Because we knew that it wasn't necessarily going to be a happy ever after, you know, movie, or I didn't believe it might be. I was genuinely just like trying to pick up pieces of evidence as we went through.
Studied the movie,
like I was trying to figure out like who am I for? Whose side am I for? Right? Oh man, I really feel for Malcolm. Oh man, Marie, man. Like, and of course, like as a woman, like I was pretty much on Marie's side the whole time.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I would say the same, honestly. I felt more for Marie, you know, and just her character and what she endured. But keep going. We'll get
because there's so much to the story, right, that can't be depicted in one night. But it was very amazing how they were able to navigate and bring history and points up in the conversation throughout the movie. So
no, totally agree. Like you thought it was an excellent film. I would be shocked if it does not get nominated for many awards. Because you know, it was just a great chemistry, great cast,
so good,
and obviously great people behind the scenes. But yeah, as I mentioned before, I kind of you know, felt a little more for Marie's character, and you know, just to kind of give a little bit more background. So, you know, she had a past of struggling with some addictions, and apparently the movie that Malcolm had, you know, released that evening was in a lot of ways based on her life. But this kind of outburst of anger, you know, or I guess outburst of hurt. Emotion. I think you could really feel that. That, you know, basically she, you know, makes this point that, you know, during his speech at the showing, he didn't thank her. And
that's really the whole point, right? As all she wanted was for him to thank her. For him to show some level of appreciation for using her story, for walking alongside him, you know, throughout that journey of the creation of the movie. And I believe that was the storyline, is one of those takeaways, that it is important to validate one another and to encourage one another and to appreciate one another. And to some extent, yeah, it's great that you do it behind the scenes. But if there's a total absence, like when the mic's right in front of you, you might be a little concerned.
Right. And
are you hiding something?
Exactly. But I think even with that, I feel like one of the biggest lessons that you can pick up from it is that, you know, it wasn't an isolated incident of just him not thanking her. This was obviously a long line of not feeling appreciated, not feeling validated, not feeling cared about. That really just came to a head in this one night when he happened to not thank her. So I think it's a good lesson of, you know, sometimes when conflicts occur between spouses, between us, it's oftentimes not that incident itself that created the conflict, but no, it's oftentimes a buildup of many things over time. If I may, I want to read this one line from Marie, from Zendaya's character, that I feel really just encapsulated. I feel like it encapsulated the movie and just the source of the conflict, because basically, you know, she makes the case like, you didn't thank me, and then so he tries to just put a band-aid over it and just say, well, thank you, I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry. But obviously it's not a genuine apology, right? But she shared this one thing that I thought was very powerful, and she said, it's not just about you not thanking me, but how you see me. and how you view not just my contribution to this relationship, but to your work overall. And I thought that was just like, man, like, I felt like we could have turned the TV off right then. Like
that was like the first 15 minutes. We're like,
right. Oh, that was in the first 15 minutes. Like, I was like, oh, I don't need to watch it. Like,
yeah,
that's it right there. But again, it just showed that, you know, she had been hurt or been feeling this way for quite some time. And obviously Malcolm hadn't taken the time to really try to acknowledge her feelings and just where she was at, and to, you know, to just be loving and supportive.
Right. And we talk about this a lot within Marriage Inside Out, because a lot of times there is a dynamic in a marriage where there might be a spouse that is kind of at the forefront of the career journey, right? And where does that other significant other fit in? How do they feel validated and feel fulfilled and feel all of those drives outside of just love for one another? Like, what keeps it going, you know? And it's a mutual responsibility.
Right.
And I think that definitely was a huge piece that came to the surface.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because it actually, in a lot of ways, reminded me of the movie Marriage Story,
right?
With Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. We actually did a review on that as well. Right. We're putting that up in the cards right now, and in case you all want to check that out. But again, kind of that same theme of, like you just mentioned, and it was very even similar in terms of what the characters did, right? Yeah. Even in Marriage Story, the husband was a theater director, you know. His wife didn't feel validated. She didn't feel affirmed. She didn't feel empowered.
Yeah.
And, you know, so when you see that, just kind of like you said, one person kind of being, I'm just focusing on me and my career and me, and you just see what that creates. But I want to know also, were there any like scenes that's really stood out to you from the movie? Was there anything that was like, you just remember as like, wow, that was, you know, really memorable?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know what we've shared so far sounds very intense. We were laughing, not at them, but like they definitely put in some humor into it. Just some of the physical actions and things. Like we're like, wait, what? This is ridiculous. But some of those things really happen. You know, it's like if you're a fly on the wall looking at some arguments where people are just like, ah, I'm
like,
so mad. That was just quite funny. But I think for me, the turning point scene, which kind of shifted my thought process to really be like, oh wow, they genuinely are no longer fighting fair, was when they'd already gone back and forth twice, I believe, and this was like kind of the third time, and Marie was taking a bath to just decompress from the night. At this time, they got home at like 1 a.m. So it's probably like 3:30 in the morning. Like, it is already pretty late. And then Malcolm comes in and just goes in on her. You know what I mean? Like, and just starts digging deeper and deeper and bringing up past hurts. With really no rhyme or reason to it. But I think that at some, you know, in a lot of cases, if it's the middle of the night and you've been arguing, you know, and you have a lot of pride built up, it's more so just like you just swing with a blindfold. You have a sword and you're just swinging and you're swinging. And if you chip off, you know, someone's shoulder, it just happens, you know, but that's not the best approach. Right. Of course.
No, definitely.
But that scene was just really powerful to me from the perspective of how deep sometimes others are willing to go. How low. Yeah, that's good. How low.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you also made the comment about some of the humor, because again, although the depictions themselves or the context wasn't funny, right? Like that was a show of abuse. Like, let's just be real. However, they depict it in some humorous ways, like you said. Like, I mean, I thought that Malcolm was gonna stab a hole in his bowl when he was eating that mac and cheese. Like, I was like, dog, brother, what's going on here? Like,
or get indigestion or something, because he would just.
I'm like, come on, man. about to stab a hole in the bowl eating some box mac and cheese. Oh. But and also though I couldn't help but laugh in the scene when he kind of walks out of the house to like blow some steam, and then he just starts like swinging at the air like 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 everybody to be in a scene from Boys in the Hood with Cuba Gooding Jr. But no, I thought, yeah, it was just some humor in it. But no, I totally agree with you. Mm-hmm. Like that was definitely a powerful scene.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to do, kind of, I guess, shift into another gear here, is that, I feel like there are really, three big questions that I felt, we could discuss mm-hmm. from the movie. Three big questions that I feel like a lot of people talk about in general when it comes to marriage and relationships, that I felt like this movie kind of brought out. And so I'm going to go question one by one, and let's just kind of dialogue about it.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier in terms of, they started arguing. It's 1 a.m. They just got home. Mm-hmm. There's a scene, kind of at the beginning where, Maria's like, let's not get into this right now. Mm-hmm. Let's just like, you're not in the right mind state, to get into this. Let's just
go to bed.
Right? So, she already didn't want to kind of get into an argument that evening, but obviously Malcolm insisted, and they, argued. Right. But so one question that I want to ask is it wise to put off discussing a conflict to the next day? Mm-hmm. And notice I didn't say, is it possible? Obviously it's possible.
Right.
But is it wise to put off, like if we're having conflict, is it wise to put off discussing that conflict to the next day?
I don't want to start every response with "it depends," but I think when you are at a place of duress, right? In this context, they were both under the influence of, well, Malcolm was for sure under the influence of alcohol, right? They were both tired, obviously. And at that late, it's probably best to rest on it. Mm-hmm. However, as soon as some choice words were shared, I think the wound was open.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it's almost like if they had just stopped as soon as she said, hey, let's go to bed, and just been okay with like, you know what, I do have something I want to talk to you about, but let's talk about it in the morning.
Right.
And there wasn't any slings thrown yet, I think that may have been okay, but because as soon as things were open, I do believe that it was necessary to try to find some resolve.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think, like you said, it does depend, if the conditions aren't conducive to you and your spouse having a constructive discussion about the conflict, then maybe you should just sleep and discuss it the next day if you're both super tired, or if there's other stuff going on, like you may have to. However, it's kind of interesting question, because I know how I am, right? And I know
how you are.
Right, exactly. Like I tend to not want to go to bed until we've at least, not even if we come to full resolve, but at least gotten to a good, I guess you could say resolve. Like, I'm just being honest. Yeah, like resolve. Like, because I honestly don't sleep well when I'm frustrated or upset, or if I feel like there's unfinished business. And even one of our marriage values is, that we will not go to bed when we are angry. Mm-hmm. We'll not let the sun go down on our anger. However, understanding though, you can still, we're going to be angry, right? At times. But it's about obviously how you manage that.
Right.
So I do think it is possible to still settle and put your anger in check, but put off the discussion to the next day. But I'm sorry, like I'd rather just talk about it. And we have had some nights where we've been up until in the bed till 2 a.m.
Yep, talking.
Because that's just me, and I appreciate you, baby. It's just me.
Because I at times would rather just go to sleep.
You would rather just go to sleep. Yes, yes.
But I think, like you said, I think getting to at least a resolve, even if there are more things to be discussed, is very important.
Right.
Right? Because it is easy to go to sleep and wake up and try to act like everything is fine when it's really not.
Exactly. All right, next question. So you sometimes hear people who say things like, some marriages just thrive off of arguments and intense conflict. That's kind of like a buzz, I feel like, at times. So I think it begs the question, like, can marriages truly thrive off of those very intense arguments and conflict?
Yeah.
Like Malcolm and Marie, they had arguments like that often,
right?
From what we can assume. But I mean, really though, can marriages thrive off of that?
Yeah. I mean, I think can two passionate people, right, come together and find love and stay together through conflicting circumstances? Absolutely. Could you call that relationship a healthy, fulfilling, whole relationship? If there is constantly intense arguments and trauma being dealt, I would say no. Any marriage that I've seen, witnessed personally firsthand, or even observed from afar that has had those extreme highs and extreme lows in perpetuity without counseling and support of peers and others has not often been fulfilling for both the spouse and the significant other in the relationship. So
yeah. I mean, I think clearly the mind can only take so much, but not even the human body can only take so much when it comes to engaging in those very intense conflicts and arguments.
Yeah.
I mean, stress can be a killer.
Yeah, like, it compounds.
Yeah, it compounds, and it'll eat at you over time, even physically. Like, so yeah, just that whole thought of, oh yeah, well they're just two passionate people and they just argue. That's just what they do.
Nope.
But is that healthy? Like,
No.
really, is that healthy? I think that's the question. Like, is that healthy? Can you do it? Yeah, maybe. Is it healthy?
Is it sustaining?
Is it sustaining?
Yeah.
Sustainable? Like, we like talking about sustainability in this day and age, right? Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think so.
Yeah. No,
so, yeah.
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. All right. So, third question. So we know that conflict is bound to happen within any marriage or relationship. But if an argument or conflict is to take place, how can we engage in it in a healthy way?
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess I can start off.
Yeah, that's great.
I think, and like I just said, conflict is bound to happen, and I sometimes will hear people say, in terms of their marriage or relationship, like, oh yeah, we've been married X amount of years. We've never had an argument. And I understand. I get what some people mean by that. They mean that they've never had like an intense argument. But it's like, you mean to tell me you've never done anything?
You've never disagreed with each other?
You never disagreed. You never done anything to upset your wife, like, and y'all never had to work through it. Either you just lying or y'all aren't around each other or y'all aren't showing yourselves to each other or something. Because I think in any relationship, no matter what it is, there's bound to be some conflict if you're truly trying to grow closer together.
Right.
There's going to be some friction. But I think, one of the things that I really like, I'm actually remember this from an album by Sober Rock and Vanessa Hill called So Many Feelings. It's an album where they got music, but they also have some little sound bites where maybe they've interviewed some couples. And I really like this one thing that this one couple said about conflict is that, yes, it's bound to happen. But the way that we handle it is key, and making sure that when we engage in conflict, that we engage the conflict itself and not dismantle each other's character.
Ooh, that's
and
good.
So I think that's something that we see a lot of in Malcolm and Marie. Is just they're just
hitting them below the belt.
Hitting them below the belt, like every punch. And it's just like, man, like, we have to understand in marriage, especially, that it's not about us going up against each other when it comes to conflict, but there is there is something trying to wedge us apart, whether it's selfishness or pride or whatever it is, and we're meant to battle it together, so that we can win together. And I know I have to tell myself that, at times, like, it's not a me against you thing, or me being right and you being wrong, but how can we again engage the conflict, not dismantle each other's character. I think tone is very much key. When we engage in these discussions, conflict discussions. We actually did a little short video talking about the power of tone, and how we communicate with one another, not blastering and yelling, screaming at each other, like, again, we see in the movie a lot of. So I would say those two things are, I guess you could say, rules of engagement when it comes to, handling how we handle our conflict. It's that tone, and it's not dismantling each other's character.
Yeah. And I would add a third to that. And I think that is really the environment. We talk a lot about environment and timing and what that looks like. So I think a consideration, if there is a conflict, for how you present that information, right? What is the setting? So whether that's like making sure that you're not bringing up the conflict in the middle of a dinner date with another couple. When you're at home, if you're about to run out the door, that might not be the best time to address something. Or to maybe even learn your spouse enough to have like a code, right? Like, we need to discuss is what a lot of people use, but it could be like code green, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, so they know that, like, you're not well in that instant, but it's definitely a pin to address at another time soon, to make sure that you guys are able to go through it and talk about it.
No, that's a good way to think about it. I mean, I think so many good lessons that can be drawn from this movie. Any final thoughts? Any final words or anything that comes to mind when you think about this movie as we wrap up?
I think that within the context of marriage, it takes work. It takes fighting fair, fighting not towards each other, like we discussed, like we're focused towards a bigger picture. And I think that's really the takeaway, is that while love is beautiful, it is very important that we approach frustrations in a way where we just have care and consideration for one another.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, seeing that, as I'm a man, when I watch movies like this, I'm often, thinking about and kind of assessing what the husband or the man is doing. That's just what I naturally do. And so I would say the movie was kind of, again, just another gut check for me as a man, and how important it is for us as men to make sure that we are affirming our wives, affirming who you are, encouraging you, making sure that, again, that I'm considering your needs and your desires, and not just being so absorbed in myself and what I'm doing. I think of the verse that says, in humility, we should value the other person above ourselves even, and that's just, again, that takes humility, not just looking out for my interests, but also for your interests. And I think, that is one of the key lessons that I feel like Malcolm was able to learn, I think, at the end. And, it's funny because a lot of people look at the end and, it's not, it's not like this happy ending, but I do feel like it gave a great mystery at the end, to where you don't know if they kept going in their relationship. Maybe that was a turning point for Malcolm to maybe kind of snap out of some of his ways. We don't know. That's all left to our imagination. But I think it's just important for us as men to remember to just be supportive of our wives, and just making sure that, because obviously you're gifted, the Lord has called you to do much, and so how can I make sure that I'm helping to put you in the position to where you can shine? Because if you shine, then that means we shine together. and we can move forward together. So
that's a good message. I mean, and it definitely goes, both ways, right? In terms of that consideration, in terms of even not tolerating certain actions or frustrations and not bottling up, what someone might be experiencing, so that, I mean, you don't know that I'm upset about something unless I share.
That's right.
And we also don't know how often, Marie may have shared some of those things that she was frustrated about previously. Yep. Some of them might have come as a surprise.
That's true. That's true.
She might have been that supportive significant other, and then he's like, wait, I didn't even know you were upset. What's going on? Yeah. So I just think that's important to consider.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, friends. So as we wrap up, what we want to know from you guys is, have you seen the movie Malcolm and Marie? And if so, what did you think about it? And if you have not seen the movie and don't plan to, then let us know what you thought about some of the questions that we discussed during this podcast. We would love to know in the comments below.
Yes, and if you are new here, or if you've been looking and listening for a while, go ahead and like, share, hit that subscribe button. If you're joining us on any of our audio channels, go ahead and follow so that you can stay up to date with new content just like this.
Yes, and again, thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, remember, your marriage has a mission, and what the Lord has brought together, let nothing and no one separate. Love God and love one another, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.